Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane. So I opened the class as usual with these 3 Guru mantras, because without the mercy of the Guru, the disciple has no potency. So I must always begin by offering respects to my spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Trinadapi Sunichena, Thoradhiva Sahishnuna, Amanina Manadena, Kirtaniya Sadahari. That mantra is to put me in the proper mood, because in spiritual life, the mental attitude is everything. So this mantra puts me in proper mood. Humility, humility, humility. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Vakivalam, Kalau Nastyeva, Nastyeva, Nastyeva Gatiranyata. And the whole point of preaching, the whole essence of the Krishna philosophy is this shloka. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way than chanting the holy name of Hari, Hari, Hari. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. So that is the Panchatattva Mahamantra. Krishna appeared 500 years ago as the Panchatattva. The Panchatattva's mission was to give everybody and show everybody that perfection can be achieved simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So we chant this Panchatattva Mahamantra so that we can chant the Hare Krishna mantra without offense. And Prabhupada instructs, before doing any preaching, this mantra must be chanted. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Then we chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And since this class is Krishna book, then we chant this mantra that was chanted personally by Lord Chaitanya when he toured South India. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hey. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hey. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Rakshamam. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Pahimam. So Rakshama means, O Lord Krishna, please protect me. And Pahima means, please maintain me. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshama. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari, Govinda Jaya Jaya. I chant this mantra because Prabhupada also chanted this mantra in Kirtan. I have a recording of him singing this mantra. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari, Govinda Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari, Govinda Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari, Govinda Jaya Jaya. I hope everything sounds good. Can you show me by thumbs up if everything sounds very good? So we're picking up from where we left off last time. In our last class, we heard the chapter where there was many comparisons made to the phenomenon experienced in the rainy season, and Shukadeva Goswami was depicting many different phenomena in the rainy season and using it as examples of how to understand various Vedic concepts. So that theme continues in this chapter. This is entitled The Autumn Season. Again, Shukadeva Goswami is teaching Maharaj Parikshit the science of God, Srimad Bhagavatam. And in these examples of the autumn season, he will give many lessons that are important for our spiritual development. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. While Krishna and Balaram were enjoying the gifts of the rainy season in this way, the autumn season gradually arrived, when all the water reservoirs became very clean, and when pleasing and refreshing wind blows everywhere. And with the appearance of autumn, the sky was completely cleared of all clouds, and so it recovered its natural blue color. The blooming lotus flower in the clear water in the forest appeared like a person who has fallen down from yoga practice, but has again become beautiful by resuming his or her spiritual life. Everything becomes naturally beautiful with the appearance of the autumn season. Similarly, when a materialistic person takes to Krishna consciousness and spiritual life, he or she also becomes as clear as the sky and water in autumn. Next example. The autumn season takes away the rolling of the dark clouds in the sky, as well as the polluted water. Filthy conditions on the ground also become cleansed. So similarly, a person who takes to Krishna consciousness immediately becomes cleansed of all dirty things, within and without. Krishna is therefore known as Hari. This name Hari means one who takes away. Krishna immediately takes away all unclean habits from anyone who takes to Krishna consciousness. Yesterday in my class on the Srimad Bhagavatam, this word Hari was also part of the shloka. and I had prepared my class, and it was explained that the word Hari means that Krishna takes away all inauspiciousness. So we should not misunderstand. When Krishna takes away things from someone, especially his devotee, he's taking away those things which are inauspicious. The clouds of autumn are white, for they do not carry any water. And similarly, a retired man, being freed from all responsibility of family affairs, such as maintaining the home, wife, and children, and taking completely to Krishna consciousness, becomes freed from all anxieties and looks as white as clouds in the autumn. Next example. Sometimes in autumn, the waterfalls come down from the top of the hill to supply clean water, and sometimes they stop. Similarly, sometimes great saintly persons distribute clear knowledge, and sometimes they are silent. The small ponds, which were filled with water because of the rainy season, gradually dry up in autumn. And as for the small aquatics living in the reservoirs, they cannot understand that their ponds are diminishing day by day. Just as the materially engrossed persons cannot understand that their duration of life is being reduced day after day, such persons are engaged in maintaining cows, property, children, wife, society, and friendship. But due to the reduced water and scorching heat of the sun in the autumn season, the small creatures living in small reservoirs of water are very much disturbed, and they are compared to uncontrolled persons who are always unhappy from being unable to enjoy life or maintain their family members. Next analogy. The muddy earth gradually dries up, and newly grown fresh vegetation begins to wither. Similarly, for one who has taken to Krishna consciousness, desire for family enjoyment gradually dries up. And because of the appearance of the autumn season, the water of the ocean becomes calm and quiet, just as a person developed in self-realization becomes free from disturbance from the three modes of material nature. Next analogy. In the autumn season, farmers save the water within the fields by building strong walls so that the water contained within the field cannot run out, because there is hardly any hope for new rainfalls, and therefore they want to save whatever water is in the field. Similarly, a person who is actually advanced in self-realization protects his or her energy by controlling the senses. And so it is advised that after the age of 50, one should retire from family life and should conserve energy of the body for utilization in the advancement of Krishna consciousness. Unless one is able to control the senses and engage them in the transcendental loving service of Mukunda, there is no possibility of salvation. So this name Mukunda has two meanings. The general understanding of the word Mukunda is that Krishna is the one who gives liberation. No demigod can give ultimate spiritual liberation. Only Hari, or Krishna, Vishnu, can give liberation. But the esoteric meaning, the inner meaning of the word Mukunda, means that Krishna, his face is very smiling. Krishna naturally has a smiling face. And that smiling face is compared to a particular flower called the kunda flower, because the kunda flower also looks like it is smiling. Next example. During the daytime in autumn, the sun is very scorching, but at night, due to the clear moonshine, people get relief from the day's fatigue. If a person takes the shelter of Mukunda or Krishna, he or she can be saved from the fatigue of misidentifying the body with the self. Mukunda or Krishna is also the source of solace for the damsels of Vrindavan. The damsels of Brajabhumi are always suffering because of separation from Krishna. And when they meet Krishna during the moonlit autumn night, their fatigue of separation is also satiated. And I must point out that although Prabhupada used the words suffering because of separation, because this separation of Krishna is on the transcendental platform, actually it may be separation, but actually it is the topmost ecstasy. We had mentioned this previously, I think 2 weeks ago, that Lord Chaitanya says, service in separation, Vipralamba Seva, is the topmost ecstasy of spiritual enjoyment. So although the word suffering is used, that's an external description, because on the transcendental platform, whether one is suffering or enjoying, because it is absolute, they are both enjoyable. We, on the material platform, cannot understand or appreciate that. For us on the material plane, there is a qualitative difference between suffering and enjoying. But the damsels of Vrindavan are on the absolute, non-dualistic platform. And therefore, externally, it may seem suffering, or it may seem that they're enjoying. But in either case, they are experiencing the topmost ecstasy. Next analogy. When the sky is clear of all clouds, the stars at night shine very beautiful. Similarly, when a person is actually situated in Krishna consciousness, he or she is cleared of all dirty things, and one becomes as beautiful as the stars in the autumn sky. So this is why Lord Chaitanya's first instruction in his 8 teachings, Shikshashtakam, Lord Chaitanya's first instruction, Chaito Darpana Marjanam, cleanse the heart, cleanse the mirror of the mind, cleanse the consciousness by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Although the Vedas contain instructions for pursuing knowledge, jnana, for practicing mystic yoga, or for engaging in karmic activities in the form of sacrifice, the ultimate purpose of the Vedas is stated in Bhagavad Gita. Vedaischa sarvair aham eva vedyo vedanta krid vedavid eva chaham. One has to accept Krishna consciousness after thoroughly studying the Vedas. Therefore, the clean heart of a devotee in Krishna consciousness can be compared to the clean sky of the autumn season. During autumn, the moon looks very bright along with the stars in the clear sky. And Lord Krishna himself appeared in the sky of the Yadu dynasty, and Krishna was exactly like the moon surrounded by the stars or the members of the Yadu dynasty. Next analogy. When there are ample blooming flowers in the gardens of the forest, the fresh, aromatic breeze gives a great relief to the person who has suffered during the summer and rainy seasons. Unfortunately, such breezes could not give any relief to the gopis because of their heart's dedication to Krishna. People in general might have taken pleasure in that nice autumn breeze, but the gopis, not being embraced by Krishna, were not very satisfied. Next analogy. Upon arrival of the autumn season, all the cows, deer, birds, and females in general become pregnant because in the autumn season, the husbands generally become impelled by sex desire. Such pregnant females are exactly like the transcendentalists who, by the grace of the Supreme Lord, are bestowed with the benedictions of their destinations in life. The great disciple of Lord Chaitanya, Rupa Goswami, has thus instructed in his Upadeshamrita, Utsahan Nishchayat Daryat Tat Karma Pravartanat Sangatyagat Sato Vrite Shadbir Bhakti Prasidyati. One should execute devotional service with great enthusiasm, with great patience, with conviction, and one should execute devotional service by following all the rules and regulations. One should keep oneself clean from material contamination and stay in the association of devotees. By following these 6 principles, one is sure to achieve the desired result of devotional service. For one who patiently follows the regulative principles of devotional service, the time will undoubtedly come when he or she will achieve the desired result, just as the females reap results by becoming pregnant. Next example. During the autumn, the lotus flowers in the lakes grow in large numbers because of the absence of lilies. Both the lilies and the lotus flowers grow by sunshine. But during the autumn season, the scorching sunshine helps only the lotus. So this is compared to a country where the king or government is strong. Thus, unwanted elements like thieves and robbers cannot prosper. When the citizens become confident that they will not be attacked by robbers, they develop with great satisfaction. And so a strong government is compared to the scorching sunshine in the autumn season. The lilies are compared to unwanted persons like thieves and robbers, and the lotus flowers are compared to the satisfied citizens. Next example. During autumn, the fields become filled with ripened grains. At that time, the people become happy over the harvest and observe various ceremonies such as Nava-Anna, the offering of new grains to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The new grains are first offered to the deities in various temples, and everyone is invited to take sweet rice made with these new grains. And there are other religious ceremonies and methods of worship, particularly in Bengal, where the greatest of all such ceremonies is held, known as Durga Puja. Next item. In Vrindavan, the autumn season was very beautiful because of the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna and Balaram. The mercantile community, the royal order, and great sages were free to move about in order to achieve their desired benedictions. Similarly, the transcendentalists, when they are freed from the engagement of their material body, they also achieve their desired goal. During the rainy season, the mercantile community cannot move from one place and to another, and so do not get their desired profit. Nor can the royal order go from one place to another to collect taxes from the people. And as for the saintly persons who must travel to preach transcendental knowledge, they also are restrained by the rainy season. But during autumn, all of them leave their confines. And in the case of the transcendentalists, whether one be a jnani, a yogi, or even a devotee, because of the material body, one cannot actually enjoy spiritual achievement. But as soon as one gives up the body, or after death, the jnani merges into the spiritual effulgence of the Supreme Lord. The yogi transfers himself to various higher planets, and the devotee goes to the planet of the Supreme Lord, Goloka Vrindavan, or else to the Vaikuntha planets, and thus enjoys his or her eternal spiritual life. So before we go to the next section, we will do a short bhajan. May Krishna bless all my Krishna book students. I see we have a total of 23 joining us today. All blessings on my Krishna book students. All blessings. I'd like to do a short bhajan, and then we'll go to the next section. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jasodanandana Gopi Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jasodanandana Gopi Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jasodanandana Gopi Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So our next section, this is a very nice little excerpt. This one is called Beautiful Krishna Described. So that's why I selected the background picture for me, because as I said in the beginning, This is one of my favorite pictures of Krishna. So aptly, this section is called Beautiful Krishna Described. With the arrival of the beautiful autumn season, the waters in the lakes and rivers became as clear as crystal and filled with fragrant lotus flowers, and the breezes blew very pleasantly. At that time, Krishna entered the forest of Vrindavana with the cows and cowherder boys. Krishna was very much pleased with the atmosphere of the Vrindavan forest, where flowers bloomed and bees and drones hummed very jubilantly, while the birds, trees, and plants were all looking very happy. Krishna, tending his cows and accompanied by his brother Sri Balaram and the other cowherder boys, began to vibrate his transcendental flute. And if you see in the background photo, there is the flute of Krishna. Look how Krishna is looking at you. Krishna is looking at you saying, "You are mine." Yes, we all belong to Krishna. The other day in America, we celebrated Father's Day last Sunday. I don't know if you have that in Panama, Father's Day. So I had to speak to a devotees group in New Jersey, and they wanted me to speak on Krishna, the original Father. So there is Krishna smiling at you, calling to you, "You are mine." After hearing the vibration of the flute of Krishna, the gopis in Vrindavan remembered Krishna and began to talk among themselves about how nicely Krishna was playing his flute. When the gopis were describing the sweet vibration of Krishna's flute, the gopis also remembered their pastimes with him. Thus their minds became disturbed, and they were unable to describe completely the beautiful vibrations. And while discussing the transcendental vibration of Krishna's flute, they remembered also how Krishna dressed, decorated with a peacock feather on his head. He was just like a dancing actor, with blue flowers pushed over his ear. Krishna's garments glowed yellow gold, and Krishna was garlanded with the Vaijayanti necklace. Dressed in such an attractive way, Krishna filled up the holes of his flute with the nectar emanating from his lips. And so the gopis remembered Krishna entering the forest of Vrindavan, which is always glorified by the footprints of Krishna and his cowherder companions. So after hearing this description, I always make the comment many times that this is what separates our Srimad Bhagavatam from all other religious scriptures. How is that? Is that our scriptures give exact details of what God looks like. You ask anyone from any other religion, ask them, "Can you tell me what God looks like?" I want to hear what they say. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, we just heard a beautiful description of God. What he does, he plays the flute. He takes care of the cows. And specific details were given. This is why I say the Srimad Bhagavatam in our philosophy is the topmost presentation of the science of God. We'll do one more section since there's enough time. This section is also very, very nice. This one is called The Gopis Attracted by the Flute. This is a very special section of Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna was very expert in playing the flute, and the gopis were captivated by the sound vibration, which was attractive not only to them, but to all living creatures who hear it. One of the gopis told her friends, "To me, the highest perfection of the eyes is to see Krishna and Balaram entering the forest, playing their flutes, and tending the cows with their friends." Persons who are constantly engaged in the transcendental meditation of seeing Krishna internally and externally, by thinking of Krishna playing the flute and entering Vrindavan forest, tending the cows with the other cowherder boys, have actually attained the perfection of samadhi. Samadhi means trance, absorption of all the activities of the senses in one particular object. And the gopis indicate that the pastimes of Krishna are the perfection of all meditation and samadhi. And in the Bhagavad Gita, it is also confirmed, Yoginam api sardeshang madgyatain antar atmana Sraddhavan bhajate yomang same yukta tamo mataha. Anyone who is always absorbed in thought of Krishna is the topmost of all yogis. Another gopi expressed her opinion that Krishna and Balaram, while tending the cows, appeared to be just like actors going to play on a dramatic stage. Krishna was dressed in glowing garments of yellow, Balaram in garments colored blue, and both held new twigs of mango tree, peacock feathers, and bunches of flowers in their hands. Dressed with garlands of lotus flowers, Krishna and Balaram were sometimes singing very sweetly among their friends. One gopi told her friend, "How is it that Krishna and Balaram are looking so beautiful?" Another gopi said, "My dear friends, why, we cannot even think of Krishna's bamboo flute. What sort of pious activities did it execute, that it is now enjoying the nectar of the lips of Krishna, which is actually the property of us gopis? Sometimes Krishna kisses the gopis. Therefore, the transcendental nectar of Krishna's lips is available only to the gopis." So the gopis asked, "How is it possible that the flute, which is nothing but a bamboo rod, is always engaged in enjoying the nectar of Krishna's lips?" Because the flute is engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord, the mother and father of the flute must certainly be happy. So another point on this idea here is mentioned by Lord Chaitanya when he was explaining the potency of Krishna's flute, that this Krishna's flute is a male, not female. So the gopis also objected that Krishna is not giving us the nectar of his lips, he's giving it to his flute, and the flute is a male. So they were quite surprised. And it is also mentioned in the book Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that Krishna has different kinds of flutes of different sizes and different numbers of holes. So one is bamboo, one is made of jewels, and I can't remember what the other ones are made of. Let's continue. The lakes and rivers are considered to be the mothers of the trees, because the trees live simply by drinking water. So the waters of the lakes and rivers of Vrindavana were in a happy mood, full of blooming lotus flowers, because the waters were thinking, how is it that our son, how is it that our son, the bamboo rod, is enjoying the nectar of Krishna's lips? The bamboo trees standing by the banks of the rivers and lakes were happy to see their descendant so engaged in the service of Krishna. Just as persons who are advanced in transcendental knowledge take pleasure in seeing their descendants engage in the service of Krishna. The trees were overwhelmed with joy and were incessantly yielding honey, which flowed from the beehives hanging on the branches. Another gopi thus said to her friend, "My dear friend, our Vrindavana is proclaiming the glories of this entire earth, because this planet is glorified by the lotus footprints of the son of Devaki. And besides that, when Govinda plays his flute, the peacocks immediately become mad, as if they had heard the rumbling of a new cloud. And when all the animals and trees and plants, either on the top of Govardhan Hill or in the valley, see the dancing of the peacocks, they all stand still, and they listen to the transcendental sound of the flute with great attention. We think that this boon is not possible or available on any other planet." Although the gopis were village cowherder women and girls, they still had extensive Vedic knowledge, such as the effect of Vedic civilization. People would learn the highest truths of the Vedas simply by hearing from authoritative sources. Another gopi said, "My dear friends, just see the deer. Although they are dumb animals, they have approached the son of Maharaj Nanda, Krishna. Not only are they attracted by the dress of Krishna and Balaram, but as soon as they hear the playing of the flute, the deer, along with their husbands, offer respectful obeisances unto Krishna, simply by looking at Krishna with great affection." It seems the gopis were envious of the deer, because the deer were able to offer their service to Krishna along with their husbands. But the gopis thought themselves not so fortunate, because whenever they wanted to go to Krishna, their husbands were not very happy. Another gopi said, "My dear friends, Krishna is so nicely dressed. He appears to be the impetus to various kinds of ceremonies held by the women folk. Even the wives of the denizens of heaven have become attracted after hearing the transcendental sound of Krishna's flute. Although they travel in the air in their airplanes, enjoying the company of their husbands, upon hearing the sound of Krishna's flute, they immediately become perturbed. Their hair is loosened, and their tight belts are slackened." So this means that the transcendental sound of the flute of Krishna extended to all corners of the universe. Also, it is significant that the gopis knew about the different kinds of airplanes flying in the sky. Then another gopi said to her friends, "My dear friends, The cows are also charmed as soon as they hear the transcendental sound of the flute of Krishna, for it sounds to them like the pouring of nectar, and they immediately spread their long ears just to catch the liquid nectar of the flute. And as for the calves, they are seen with the nipples of their mothers pressed in their mouths, but they cannot suck milk, for they remain struck with devotion, and tears glide down their eyes, illustrating vividly how they are embracing Krishna heart to heart. These phenomena indicate that even the cows and calves in Vrindavan knew how to cry for Krishna and embrace Krishna heart to heart. Actually, the perfection of Krishna consciousness can be culminated in the shedding of tears from the eyes. Another young gopi told her mother, "My dear mother, the birds, who are all looking at Krishna playing on his flute, are sitting very attentively on the branches and twigs of different trees, and from their features it appears that they have forgotten everything and are engaged only in hearing Krishna's flute. So this proves that they are not ordinary birds. They must be great sages and devotees, and just to hear Krishna's flute, they have appeared in Vrindavan forest as birds." Great sages and scholars are interested in Vedic knowledge, but the essence of Vedic knowledge is stated in Bhagavad Gita. Vedaischa sarvair aham eva vedya. Through the knowledge of the Vedas, Krishna has to be understood. So from the behavior of these birds, it appeared that they must have been great scholars in Vedic knowledge, and that they took to Krishna's transcendental vibration, rejecting all other branches of Vedic knowledge. Even the river Yamuna, being desirous to embrace the lotus feet of Krishna, after hearing the transcendental vibration of Krishna's flute, broke her fierce waves just to flow very nicely with lotus flowers in her hands, in order to present flowers to Mukunda with deep feeling. The scorching heat of the autumn sunshine was sometimes intolerable, and therefore the clouds in the sky appeared in sympathy above Krishna and Balaram and their cowherder boyfriends, while they engaged in blowing their flutes. The clouds served as a soothing umbrella over their heads, just to make friendship with Krishna. And the Aborigine girls became fully satisfied when they smeared their faces and breasts with the dust of Vrindavan, which was reddish from the touch of Krishna's lotus feet. That reminds me, I have Vrindavan dust which somebody gave me a few months ago. This is Vrindavan dust. So, every day I take a little bit and I rub it on my head, following the example of great devotees. So every day I'm bathing in the dust of Vrindavan. The Aborigine girls had very full breasts, and they were also very lusty. But when their lovers touched their breasts, the girls were not very much satisfied. When they came out into the midst of the forest, they saw that while Krishna was walking, some of the leaves and creepers of Vrindavan had turned reddish from the kumkum powder which fell from Krishna's lotus feet. Krishna's lotus feet are held by the gopis upon their breasts, which are smeared with kumkum powder. But when Krishna travels in Vrindavan forest with Balaram and the cowherder boyfriends, the reddish powder falls on the ground of Vrindavan forest. So the lusty aborigine girls, while looking toward Krishna playing his flute, saw the reddish kumkum on the ground and immediately took it and smeared it over their faces and breasts. In this way, they became fully satisfied. So this proves that all material lusty desires can be immediately satisfied if one comes in contact with Krishna consciousness. And then another gopi began to praise the unique position of Govardhan Hill. How fortunate is this Govardhan Hill, for it is enjoying the association of Krishna and Balaram, who are accustomed to walk on it. Thus Govardhan is always in touch with the lotus feet of the Lord. And because Govardhan Hill is so obliged to Lord Krishna and Balaram, it is supplying different kinds of fruits, roots, and herbs, as well as very pleasing crystal waters from its lakes. And in presentation to Krishna, all of this is done. But the best presentation offered by Govardhan Hill is the newly grown grass for the cows and calves. So Govardhan Hill knows how to please Krishna by pleasing Krishna's most beloved associates, the cows and cowherder boys. Another gopi then said, "Everything appears wonderful when Krishna and Balaram travel in the forest of Vrindavan, playing their flutes and making intimate friendship with all kinds of moving and non-moving living creatures. When Krishna and Balaram play on their transcendental flutes, the moving creatures become stunned and stop their activities, and the non-moving living creatures, like the trees and plants, begin to shiver with ecstasy. These are all the wonderful reactions of the vibration of the transcendental flutes of Krishna and Balaram." Krishna and Balaram carry binding ropes on their shoulders and in their hands, just like ordinary cowherder boys. And while milking the cows, the boys bind their hind legs with a small rope. This rope almost always hung from the shoulders of the boys, and it was not absent from the shoulders of Krishna and Balaram. In spite of their being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna and Balaram played exactly like cowherder boys, and therefore everything became wonderful and attractive. And while Krishna was engaged in tending the cows in the forest of Vrindavan or on Govardhan Hill, the gopis in the village were always absorbed in thinking of Krishna and discussing Krishna's different pastimes. So this is the perfect example of Krishna consciousness, to somehow or other always remain engrossed in thoughts of Krishna. And the vivid example is present always in the behavior of the gopis. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya declared, "Aradhyo Bhagavan Vrajesha Tanayas Tadhama Vrindavanam Ramya Kichit Upasana Vrajavadhu Vargena Ya Kalpita." No one can worship the Supreme Lord by any method which is better than the method of the gopis. The gopis were not born in very high Brahmana or Kshatriya families. No, they were born in the families of Vaishyas, and not in big mercantile communities, but in the families of the cowherder men. The gopis were not very well educated, although they heard all sorts of knowledge from the Brahmanas, who are the authorities of Vedic knowledge. However, the gopis' only purpose was to remain always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I will end today's class by reciting the Nrsinga Stotram for all of yours protection. All of you who have attended the class and have patiently listened, these Nrsinga prayers are your spiritual insurance policy. Namaste Narasimhaya, Prahlad Akhlada Dayane, Hiranya Kashipo Vaksha, Shilatankanakalaye, Ito Nrsinga, Padato Nrsinga, Yato Yamitato Nrsinga, Bahi Nrsinga, Hridaye Nrsinga, Nrsingham Adim Sharanam Prapadye, Tabakara Kamalavare Nakam Adbhuta Sringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringam Keshavadrita Narahadi Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare, Jai Jagadisha Hare, Jai Jagadisha Hare. Keshavadrita Nrsimha Rupa, Jai Jagadisha Hare, Jai Jagadisha Hare, Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Astotra Satya Sri Sriman His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Syamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadeep Dham Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai, Yamuna Devi Ki Jai, Ganga Devi Ki Jai, Shamaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Cologne Krishna Book Class Ki Jai. All glories to the Cologne devotees. All glories to the Cologne devotees. All glories to the Cologne devotees. Hari Hari Bol, Hari Hari Bol, Hari Hari Bol.